Hello, everybody. MegaZardX here, back at it again to give you another very exciting episode on Zard Stocks. Now, lately, I've been putting out a lot of videos focused on certain topics for the Nintendo Switch 2. But the one thing I hadn't gotten around to talking about yet is how you're going to go about playing certain Nintendo Switch 1 games on your Nintendo Switch 2. And here, as of late, there's some topics I'd like, for example, this one that I've been waiting a little bit of time on just to kind of see how things have been playing out because things have been changing almost on a day-to-day basis, at least for the first few days when the system was first announced and we got all the preview events and then the treehouse footage and everything else in between, to where I was sitting on some of this stuff until I can kind of get a little bit more of a precise answer on all of this before I give all my thoughts out here and throw it up on the channel though. But it seems like there's a few different versions of Switch 1 games in terms of the way how some of them will either the some games that just won't get updates. There's going to be games that are going to get updates that are going to be completely for free. Then there's going to be some that they're going to probably cost about maybe $10 or so, or could be included within your expansion pack tier for the expansion pack. And then there are some that are going to be included within the expansion pass tier. And then obviously there's going to be some that's going to cost even a little bit more than that though. So let's go ahead and break everything down here real quick. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about some games that are going to get free updates, stuff that will not cost you a nickel or a dime. That's not going to break the bank whatsoever, especially, considering the cost of whatever the cost of that system is going to be for just buying the Switch 2 upright, though. So there are going to be some free updates for select Nintendo Switch games that are different from the Nintendo Switch 2 editions that y'all might have already saw some of the box arts for certain games, though. So some of those games is as follows. There's going to be updates for ARMS, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario 3D World, plus Bowser's Fury, Clubhouse Games 51 Classics, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, Game Builder Garage, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and Big Brain Academy Brain vs. Brain. All of those games will get free updates for the Nintendo Switch 2, where some of it could be graphical, some of it could probably be including some things such as like that game chat feature with that C button stuff, and then a few things here and there though, or maybe some might include mouse support. Like that's what I'm kind of guessing for Game Builder Garage. That kind of makes natural sense for that one, and then maybe anything else in between though. But all of those will get free updates. They will not cost you a nickel or a dime to get any of these. So for games such as like Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, hey, that's welcome news to a lot of people's ears though, because the way how some of those games have been running, I'm like, oh shoot, they needed that performance thing though. I remember hearing topics and discussions from either Nintendo themselves or at times maybe from the Pokemon companies like, hey, we appreciate all the free feedback and stuff. We hold our games to high quality. How high quality it is, that's to be determined though. But they said some kind of a performance patch was going to be coming at some point in the future. We never really had that to a significant or degree, but it seems like at least with the Nintendo Switch 2, it seems like those will definitely be getting it at that point though. So whatever you want to say about those games though, hey, at least that performance patch is coming because I think it's long overdue though. But that covers it in terms of all known games, at least at the time of this recording, that will get free Switch 2 updates or patches that won't cost you a nickel or a dime. Now let's take it up one more tier. There's going to be some other games that's going to basically be a $10 upgrade for you to be able to buy a Switch 2 edition of these. Now, with these editions, it can be improvements to, just the performance with the frame rate, or it could also be with the resolution of the game, or also like features that might include like mouse controls and stuff like that. Any one of those that's just only doing the bare minimum of what I just previously described is going to seem to be a $10 upgrade. So if you look at a game such as like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, those have Switch 2 editions, but that's all they're doing for that. Those naturally, if you don't have a Nintendo Switch Online, NSO account, and you don't have like the expansion pack tier listing, then these out of pocket are going to cost $10 extra to upgrade. So if you have a Breath of the Wild or if you have Tears of the Kingdom already, then you should be able to download those upgrade packs off the eShop. Those should cost you straight up $10. However, if you're somebody that didn't own Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom before then, they will be selling these games, straight up at a retailer like your Best Buy, or your Walmart, Target, or any one of those, and you can buy them off the shelf. But since Tears of the Kingdom is normally a $70 game, technically buying it off the shelf will be an $80 game with the upgrades. Or Breath of the Wild normally being a $60 game with those Switch 2 edition upgrades, it puts it up to a $70 game. So you know what, the pricing on that is pretty respectable, because when you look at other, you know, places with the competition, such as like PlayStation, with the way how they do their upgrades and stuff, they typically sell their upgrades for like $10 each. So I was fully expecting that in terms of that regard though, but I obviously just seeing that sticker price of an $80 game like that, you know, that's gonna rub some people off the wrong way though. But all things considered, based upon the original MSRPs, it makes natural sense. However, with these two games that I mentioned right here, there's going to be a bend of the knee, because Nintendo's going to throw you at least a little bit of a bone, because if you had the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack tier, you're going to get those additions for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom for free. They're included within your subscription. So even give you a little bit more value to having that NSO Plus expansion pack tier thing right now though. So hey, if you got that, you might as well go ahead and try that out on launch day or whenever you happen to be able to pick up the system now. However, there's a couple other games that's also going to kind of fit into the same tier with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and that's for two upcoming games, such as like Metroid Prime 4, as well as Pokemon Legends ZA. Now, both of those are going to have Nintendo Switch 2 editions as well, especially for Metroid Prime 4, because we already saw the box art and all of that stuff fully in terms of that though. I hadn't seen the box art for Legends ZA yet. We still need a little more info on that. But at least with Metroid Prime 4, there will be a Switch 2 edition that we're already kind of looking at and seeing right now. Now, I'm fully expecting, obviously, the Switch version of the game should be 60, and since they're only doing performance stuff, like, you know, you can play up to 4K 60 or 1080 120 FPS, then that should warrant a $10 upgrade, so that Switch 2 edition of the game should only cost you $70. So 60 for a Switch version or 70 for a Switch 2 version of it. I myself will personally be getting the Switch 2 version because I want to see that little bit of extra performance and just make sure the game all runs perfectly clean and high glory resolution as what I want it to be though. Same thing kind of applies with the Switch 2 version of Pokemon Legends Z8. That should run at a higher, slightly higher resolution, better performance as well in terms of the frame rate and stuff, because I can easily already tell the little bit that they managed to showcase off in some of the debut trailers for the Nintendo Switch 2. It looks way better. It looks passable versus what we managed to get previously, even looking back at the February Nintendo Direct we got earlier this year though. So that's all things to kind of consider right there. So a $10 upgrade for just extra features in terms of a mouse mode, or just upticks in terms of resolution or frame rate. Last is we got the highest tier of an upgrade, where you're going to get everything that I just mentioned previously with the $10 upgrade, with, you know, performances, with performance boosts, whether it be with the resolution and the frame rate, on top of DLC that gets added in there. And with that, there's two games at least that we know of right now that's going to fit in that camp. And one of them happens to be Super Mario Party Jamboree plus Jamboree TV. And there's the other one with Kirby Star Allies and that Starcross Road or whatever it's called though. Those are the two games that are going to be a plus $20. So you can think about it as, you know, if it's basic performance upgrades, that's plus 10. And if they had extra DLC up in there, that's another plus 10. So that's plus 20 in total, on top of whatever the original base price of the games happen to be. So Super Mario Party Jamboree, as well as Kirby Star, I hope I didn't say Kirby Star Allies. If I did, I meant to say Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, both of them managed to sell for $60. So with all of these additions, 60 plus the 20 puts it at an $80 game. So then that way, if you're looking at a retailer right now, you will see that box art and everything with that MSRP price at the bottom, it's gonna be priced at $80. Now that, I think, is one of the main reasons why, if you have a stinking Kirby game that's priced at 80 with the DLC and the performance boosts and stuff, sit right next to Mario Kart World, which would probably sell at $70. I bet you they're looking at Mario Kart and considering how many sales that they made from the last game being 8 Deluxe. There's no way they're like, wait a minute, that Kirby game can't be worth no more than our main flagship title being Mario Kart. I feel like that's one of the main reasons why they're getting a little bit greedy, a little bit snubby, and they're trying to price that mess at 80. That's just my own personal opinion of why I think they're pricing that at 80. But I digress, though. Regardless, that's the way how it seems like all the pricing is going to be handled in terms of all of these Nintendo Switch 2 editions. So you got the camp of games that's going to be completely for free. You got the camp of games that's going to be, a plus additional $10 on top of the original MSRP of those games. So that's your Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, or Legends ZA, along with Metroid Prime 4. Then you have the plus 20, where they actually start including extra DLC up in the mix with Super Mario Party Jamboree and then Kirby and the Forgotten Land. So considering all of that stuff, I know it was a little bit confusing at first when we saw that stuff in the direct, and then we got a little bit of post news and stuff like that. But after sitting down and marinating on all of this stuff, it makes perfect sense why these things are priced that way. I know some people might not necessarily agree with, once you see the full sticker price of it actually being shown at $80. But regardless, it makes sense. It's not too overly aggressive for just the upgrades themselves. But when you're looking at the complete package, I mean, then you can be up in the debate up on all of that though. But at least for some games, if you had the expansion pack tier, and you're going to be able to get some of those for free, like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So they're throwing you a bone every now and then, though. And who's to say they don't happen to throw more games in that camp that normally will cost you a $10 upgrade, though? It's just some things to kind of keep in mind and wonder, though. But at least in terms of the performance boosters themselves, like what we've seen for Metroid Prime 4, what we've seen for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, oh my gosh, the footage from like Tears of the Kingdom, seeing that mess run at 60 FPS, I'm like, oh my gosh, because literally it wasn't bad whenever you're playing a game like that while you're just up in the moment and just traveling from one area of the map of Hyrule to the other, though. But if you put that game down, and I played a game such as like Splatoon 3 that runs at 60, then I go back and play Breath of the Wild, you will notice that right now. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, you got to readjust those eyes. That 30 FPS, it starts to kind of sit in there a little bit, though. But seeing that mess running at a beautiful 60 FPS, you can run through the Korok Forest and not, feel like you're trudging through it like a bunch of mud and stuff. That's just welcome music to my ears, though. So I love seeing all of these different versions of Switch games that are getting upgraded. I just feel like Nintendo could have communicated this a little bit of information a little bit better than kind of what they had happen to kind of just throw out there on their website, or stuff getting passed around word of mouth, or people talking with QA agents and stuff like that, though. I feel like I did my best in terms of covering what all you can expect to see in terms of these, Switch edition games upgraded onto the Nintendo Switch 2. But y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below. Are there any games that you're kind of curious about or interested in picking up a Switch 2 dedicated title? At least for me, I will be dabbling. I don't know so much so with Breath of the Wild, but with Tears of the Kingdom, I definitely will dabble with that. Might actually put some extensive hours up in there, because now you got like the addition of like the Zelda notes and stuff like that. That's some really cool stuff that they actually added. That kind of enhances the game a bit more. So I might pick up the DLC for Jamboree TV. I probably won't mess with the Kirby Star. I keep saying Kirby Star Allies. My bad. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. My goodness. I probably won't get the upgrade for that game unless I'm just hungry for extra Switch 2 stuff, which by the time you get the console and whatever price it might be priced at, I mean, shoot. You might have to make some sacrifices here and there. It might be something to get further down the road, though. But I like seeing all the different upgrades that they're able to do over here. But y'all gotta let me know which ones are y'all currently interested in, though. But that's gonna basically do it in terms of today's video, though. So if you really like this, make sure you're gonna hit that like button. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing. So remember, y'all, until our video I make next, see y'all.